It began with a smile that felt like a verdict. She slid the envelope across the kitchen table with the casual, practiced ease of someone handing over a birthday card. And when I looked down and saw the official header, my stomach fell through the floor. Divorce papers. No drama. No tears. No midnight arguments that finally broke. Just a clean, clinical fold of paper and the soft, confident voice saying, "I think this is best." In that instant, the house felt like a stage set where the furniture kept pretending to belong to two people who still shared a life. I don't remember crying. Not then. I remember a distant, icy calm. The kind that comes when you realize your world has been quietly rearranged and you're the only one still standing in the old place. That calm is dangerous. It looks like acceptance, but it's really a decision. I decided I would not give her the satisfaction of a scene. I decided I would not be the man who begged. I decided, instead, to become the author of the only ending she hadn't planned for. You have to understand how meticulous she was about appearances. She curated everything. The friends who always laughed at her jokes, the events she attended, the outfits, the social media captions. Everything had to look effortless, perfect, enviable. So when she handed me the papers, she was not just ending a marriage, she was orchestrating a narrative where she left unscathed, admired, and free. That narrative was her currency. I could have accepted my role as the defeated one in her story, but I knew stories can be rewritten if you understand the characters and the plot points. She'd been playing a part in a drama that belonged to her alone, and the luxury birthday party she had been planning for months was to be the final act where she took her bow. If she wanted a perfect public finale, she would get a finale, but not the one she had rehearsed. So I watched, I listened, I catalogued, not out of obsession, but because truth, once hidden, needs witnesses. I started to collect evidence carefully and legally, because there is a difference between rumor and proof, and I wanted the latter. I saved messages, took screenshots of call logs, gathered receipts, and kept photos that confirmed what my heart already suspected. I hired a private investigator for the things I couldn't reach myself, not because I wanted to stalk, but because I wanted the clarity that only facts can provide. And with each piece of paper, each timestamp, each slyly deleted message resurrected, the outline of her life outside our life became painfully obvious. There was a younger man, a coworker whose name she would never have dared to publicly mention. There were nights she claimed to be working late and dinners she claimed were with clients. There were details so mundane that they made the betrayal feel like 1,000 pinpricks rather than a single wound, a lipstick stain on a shirt, a screenshot of a calendar invite, a voicemail left at midnight that disappeared when she thought I wasn't looking. People will tell you revenge is petty, that it poisons the soul. They are right in some ways. Revenge can be corrosive when it's rooted in spite. But there is a kind of retribution that is not about making someone suffer for the thrill of it. It's about restoring balance, reclaiming dignity, and making sure truth is told where secrecy has been used as armor. My aim was never to humiliate for sport. It was to expose a lie where she had previously orchestrated an entire life built on deception. And the stage she chose, her luxury birthday celebration, was the most honest place to display the truth. Because it was where she wanted to be most admired, most adored, and most untouchable. Planning this felt like assembling a complicated machine. I wrote a script for the montage I would show, timestamps, message threads, photos, short clips of her laughing about things she'd never admit, hotel booking confirmations, voice snippets, all stitched together in a way that would be undeniable. I rehearsed my speech until the words felt natural and not like an act. I coordinated with a trusted friend who had access to the venue's AV system, making sure the video would play without a hitch at the exact moment I wanted. I prepared legal copies of my own, clean, finalized divorce documents that reflected what I believed was fair, so that when the time came I could hand over an envelope of my own and walk away with my head held high. The carefulness was not cruelty. It was the only way to make sure that this was not about spectacle but about truth. I wanted the room to witness a reality she had tried to hide behind curated posts and polite smiles. On the night of the party, everything smelled like roses and champagne. The hotel ballroom glittered with chandeliers, and every surface seemed polished to a gloss. She floated through the room in a designer dress, the kind of dress that catches both the light and envy. I walked in wearing clothes that were as intentional as my silence had been, a suit that fit like armor but with a calm expression. The kind that says you're in control because you are. People greeted me with nervous smiles. Some offered condolences. Others, who had clearly chosen sides long ago, whispered congratulations to her as if nothing had changed. Watching them was its own education. You learn who your real friends are by watching how they behave when the script flips. I let them have their assumptions. I let her have the stage. I waited. Then came the moment she stood, glass raised, to deliver her thank yous. She spoke of gratitude, of new beginnings, of the support system that had carried her through. There was a deliberate lightness in her voice when she mentioned respect and understanding and dignified choices. The kind of lightness people use to hide things that weigh a lot. I could feel eyes flickering to me, curious, pitying, complicit. That was when I stood, asked for the microphone with a steady voice, and said words I had practiced in the quiet hours when sleep felt like a stranger. I thanked her for inviting us all to the celebration. I complimented the arrangements. And then, with a clarity that I hoped would match the seriousness of the moment, I said I had a birthday gift for her, one that would explain why she had chosen to hand me divorce papers like a courteous exit rather than an honest conversation. The video hit the screen like a shutter slamming. At first the room watched politely as photos and texts began to scroll, banal things. At first, a coffee date, a message about seeing you later, a selfie posted at the wrong time. But then came a cascade of details that could not be smoothed over. Screenshots of late-night plans, receipts with 2 names on a shared table, messages where she compared me unfavorably to someone else and laughed about how easy it was to lie. The montage was not theatrical. It was forensic. It presented a sequence of choices laid bare. You could see, second by second, the architecture of deceit. Gasps spread like a hush. A friend put a hand to her mouth. Her mother's face turned white. People who had admired her poise now looked shocked and betrayed in a way that mirrored what I had felt the day she slid that envelope across our table. She moved toward the screen like someone trying to snatch a lie back into a shadow, whispering, "Stop it, please, stop it." Her whisper was a plea to unsee reality, as if denial could scrub the digital trace of her actions. But truth, especially when presented with precision, has a weight that denial cannot lift. I let the video play on because there are moments when silence is more devastating than a scream. When it ended, the room did not erupt into chaos. Instead it fell into a kind of stunned, brittle quiet that felt worse than shouts. People exchanged looks that said, without words, how did we not know? The embarrassment on her face was not theatrical anymore. It was primal. It was the look of someone whose carefully curated mirror I had shattered. I didn't shout. I didn't hurl accusations. I did something colder and more irrevocable. I walked to the table, placed an envelope under her name and said, "You gave me divorce papers as a gift. Here are mine, signed, agreed, finalized. I'm taking the copy that represents my terms." There was a silence long enough to hear the clink of ice in a glass. She reached for the envelope as if it might still contain the life she believed she could shape. But the pages were already in my hand when I turned and walked out. I could hear the stir, the questions, the whispered condemnations, the attempt to salvage dignity with angry, embarrassed words. But I did not look back. I had already said what needed saying. Walking away didn't erase the hurt. You don't unfeel years in a single dramatic night. But there is a kind of liberation that comes from choosing how to leave a place that has betrayed you. The revenge I enacted was not a prank or an act of cruelty. It was a reclamation. It was the decision to not be the punchline in someone else's story anymore. People will judge the method. Of course, some will call it vindictive. Others will say it was necessary. My only measure in that room was whether truth finally had witnesses, whether my dignity had been reclaimed from the tiny humiliations that had piled up in the quiet corners of our life. Afterwards, the fallout was complicated in ways I had anticipated and in ways I had not. Friends we thought were neutral took sides. Mutual acquaintances offered awkward condolences. There were messages, some supportive, some angry, and shockingly, some from people who confessed they had suspected something for a while but lacked proof. Her father called, broken and bewildered. My own family rallied around me. Their disbelief mingled with relief that the pattern was finally exposed. And the younger man? He vanished from social circles like a name scratched out of a page. She tried to control the narrative online, posting curated photos of herself smiling, trying to stitch back together the image of invincibility. But the internet has a memory. And the video had already spread in private messages and small, horrified conversations long after the chandeliers cooled. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding, not a revenge that lingers, but a life that moves forward. I took the quiet I had cultivated and turned it into something constructive: friends, therapy, late night walks where I allowed myself to be angry and then let the anger ebb. I found solace in small, ordinary things: cooking for one, laughing at late night shows, reading books I had ignored. There is always a recovery period after betrayal. A messy domestic morning where you unlearn the rhythm of two bodies in one bed and relearn the quiet of being whole alone. It's not pretty, and it's not instantaneous, but it's honest. People ask what I would tell others in the same position. I would say this: do not confuse spectacle for healing. The truth is powerful, but it is a tool, not a treasure to be hoarded for vengeance. If you choose to reveal someone's deceit, do it because you want clarity for yourself and the witnesses, not because you want to turn their life into a spectacle. In my case, the party was the clearest place to bring the truth into light, and the evidence had to be unambiguous. But if you can leave with your dignity intact without creating a scene, that is often the wiser path. For me, the scene was the path I chose, and it brought the closure I needed to step away without pretending the wound didn't exist. Now, months later, life is quieter and, in many ways, steadier. She still occupies social feeds and occasional gossip, but the thing that mattered most, the truth, no longer hides behind pretty captions. I made a choice that night, not out of malice but out of necessity, to reclaim my story and to refuse the role she had written for me. The loudest part of revenge isn't the humiliation, it's the reclaiming. And when the music fades and the ballroom empties, what remains is not the scandal but the simple fact that I stood up and told the truth where it mattered. If that is what people call revenge, then I will accept the name, because what I really wanted was to be free, and I finally was.